Hi, I'm Joe Polizzi, and this is the Content Inc. podcast. 5 minutes every Monday for content creators who desire to be content entrepreneurs. Most people know what a content audit is, and there are many different types of content audits. The big kind is when you bring in this consultancy and they review all the content you're creating and all your strategies, and they get back into really looking at governance, and they do interviews with all your leaders, and it costs a ton of money. And there's nothing wrong with those, and for big enterprises, those are definitely needed. For the rest of us, you can do a cursory content audit, which just means let's take a look at what we're doing, why we're doing it, what's working and what's not, so that we can actually make some business decisions with our content, our audience, our marketing goals, and all that stuff. So I've been around for a lot of these cursory content audits, and I've noticed 5 things that keep reoccurring over and over again. For the last 20 years, actually, seems to be the same problems occur over and over again, which makes me think sometimes things haven't changed very much. I know they have, but it feels like we just haven't evolved from the initial boom of digital content creation in the late 90s, 2000s. I started my blog in 2007 and was honestly late to the party into today when everyone's creating content. But alas, we're all still having troubles. So let's go through a few of these. So the first one is the business is publishing in too many places. We've talked about this before with the Content Inc. model. You can only be great at so many things with limited resources. So what a lot of companies do, they say, oh, okay, let's do the blog and the podcast and the webinar series and the research report and the event, and we're going to be on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn. And when CMI did studies years ago, we found that the average company was distributing content 13 to 16 different ways. And what that means is they're becoming a jack of all trades, master of none. Not even a jack of all trades. They're just publishing everywhere and probably just being busy. A lot of busy work, really not making an impact. So when we do a lot of these content audits, what we recommend is take a look at where you're publishing that's really not making an impact, or you're not willing to deliver the resources to that type of publishing, to that specific channel. And what we're going to do is we're going to quit doing that, and we're going to take those resources and put it to somewhere that we can be amazing. So you might say, you know what, the YouTube thing that we're doing, we're infrequent, we're really not making an impact, the content there is not great. So let's take the resources from there and put it into this amazing email newsletter or podcast. So that's the first thing. The business is publishing in too many places. The second thing is content frequency is not consistent. Just pick a frequency that works. If your blog is weekly, then deliver the blog at the same time, same day, every week, and don't stop until you get data that tells you you're doing it wrong. So we want to make sure that we create what NBC used to call must-see TV, right? Appointment-driven content. My friend Drew Davis talks about that all the time. You want your audience to set an appointment with your content, so whenever you deliver it, your podcast, your e-newsletter, even your social media posts, you need to have some kind of a frequency, and most businesses don't. A lot of businesses, we're all over the place with how we deliver. And again, the greatest media companies and content marketing examples of all time, they deliver consistently over a long period of time. So that's number 2. Content frequency is not consistent. Third problem is the original content that businesses create is not truly differentiated. In the Content Inc. model, I talk about finding your content tilt, that area of differentiation where you can actually cut through all that clutter online and be noticed and get attention and people sign up for the thing. So what you have to do is really make sure and look at everything else that's going on and say, well, are we truly differentiated? Is the audience that we're targeting niche enough, and are we delivering on their pain points, or are we just talking about what everyone else is talking about? In some of my examples, I'll talk about Googling cloud computing. And when you Google cloud computing, you come up with IBM and Salesforce and Oracle, and they all talk about cloud computing in the same way. Why? I don't know, but they do. And what's the point? So have a take, have a hook, have a differentiation on your content. This doesn't happen right away. You get a lot of feedback from your audience on what works and what doesn't. So we want to make sure that our original content is actually differentiated in some way. The fourth one is businesses don't put enough focus on email content or list building. I've talked about this on the show. Not a regret, but if I had a do-over, the biggest thing that I would start doing in 2007 when I started the blog was focusing on my opt-in permission-based email newsletter. There was about a 15-month period where I was just creating content and I wasn't focused on the email newsletter, and man, did we miss out on a lot of opportunities. The other thing is a lot of companies that create a regular email newsletter, it's just bad. It's just abstracts, links and abstracts. It's not differentiated in any way. It's sort of, here's what the company is doing and blah. And look at your open rate. Look at your click-through rate. I know that Apple is fiddling with a lot of their open rates, so we really don't know for sure. So maybe click-through rate is a better thing to look at. And you should be getting a couple percentages on click-through rate. And if you're not, maybe you're having some problem with that. So you want to make sure we focus on a great, amazing, remarkable email newsletter and really have it be central to our content strategy. And the last one is the audience focus is generally too broad. And this makes sense, right? We want to talk to and target as many people as possible because we want them all to be our customers. But the problem is if we go too broad, we can't focus on those real relevant pain points that our audience has. So with each channel that you have, really be specific with the audience you're trying to target and what you're trying to do. And it's better to go niche than broad. You can always broaden out. But once you start a program and you're too broad, there's no way you're going to be specific and differentiated enough to solve those informational pain points. So that is the fifth one. Your audience focus is too broad. So here's the 5 again. Number 1, when we do a content audit, generally we find the business is publishing in too many places. Number 2, the content frequency is not consistent. 3, original content is not truly differentiated. 4, there's not enough focus on email content or list building. And number 5, your audience focus is too broad. Pick one of these where you're having a challenge and let's tackle it today and make a difference with your content. Thanks and good luck.